Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. In today's special edition, I have my dear friend Moji with me, and Moji and I are fans of networking, to say the least. Moji, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for a living.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here with you, Jeff. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to connect with you, but also with your audience around this topic that is so dear to both of our hearts, and that is networking. And that's what I do for a living. I help entrepreneurs, business owners. I help them build strategic relationships that end up helping them build their businesses faster than they ever imagined possible. I focus on business owners, but networking is critical in just about every area of life. So I'm very excited for us to have this conversation.
Moji and I are going to nerd out on networking. I have a feeling this is going to be a fun conversation. If you don't like networking, you can tune out now, because I'm guessing that's all her and I are going to talk about. Now, first of all, Moji, I want you to go on record. We were talking before about the quote where Dr. Meisner was asked if BNI is a cult, and what was his response?
Well, I was in the room on a number of occasions. It comes up quite a bit where people say, is it a cult? And basically, Dr. Meisner says, I wish it was, because then people would listen and do what I asked them to do. But alas, they do not. So there's your answer.
I love that. And I just want to point out, for anyone who hasn't heard of Dr. Ivan Meisner, number one, why are you listening to the show? Number two, what rock do you live under? But number three, it's the message of givers gain. Now, Moji, why is that important to you?
Well, oh my goodness, where do you want me to begin from? So I purchased a business in 2026, I think, sorry, 2026, 2006. And like many people, I believe it was Michael Gerber who says people start or purchase businesses in a moment of temporary insanity. That is a whole different quote, and we can go down that line. But he says, just because you know how to bake a cake doesn't mean that you can run a bakery. But a lot of us go, oh, my friends like my cakes, so I'm going to start a bakery. Well, I was one of those. And I thankfully, somebody introduced me to BNI, and the rest is history. Just people helping people. I walked into this room full of seasoned business owners, and first thing I thought is, that imposter syndrome, and you go, yeah, they're gonna figure out that I'm a fake, right? I kept waiting for somebody to come up to me and say, you are not a businesswoman, you're just here pretending to be one of us. Never happened. And they just surrounded me, they helped me grow my business, and I wouldn't have made it. You know how they say 80% of businesses do not make it to their first year. I don't think I would have made it without the support of those people in BNI. And so that's one very practical example of the whole give as gain thing. I have seen it work. I have visited BNI chapters as far away as Hong Kong. I've been in rooms where I didn't understand the language, but the smiles on people's faces and the magic in the room was palpable, because they all believe in that give as gain. So I could go on, but I'll stop there for now. Hopefully I answered your question.
You did, and more, and we're going to just have a fun conversation, because one of the things I want to talk about is BNI. And one of my aha moments is if somebody hasn't been through BNI don't want to network with them because, quite frankly, I'm not smart enough to educate everyone. Let's talk about what BNI is, and let's puncture the myth that BNI doesn't work, because I hear that a lot. And I'm going to be honest, when people tell me it doesn't work and then they network, I'm like, you didn't listen to Dr. Meisner, did you? So
Mhm. Yeah, good point. BNI, Business Network International, for those of you who have not heard about it, great organization. It's, if I could put it, if I was to explain BNI to my 5-year-old grandson, it would be people helping people. And it's just that simple. Just for the sheer fun of it, just for the fact that they want to help build each other up, they want to help make a difference in their communities. That's basically what we do. And like you, being that this is what I do for a living, I'm actually an executive director with BNI in Southern Alberta. People say all the time, it doesn't work. And when we go down that sort of, okay, let's get under the iceberg, let's try and find out what's going on. Usually there is, it's either I come into the room and I'm going, gimme, 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 which doesn't work in any situation, much less BNI,
yeah.
or I'm not taking the time to actually build and develop the relationships. I'm not taking the time to show up authentically. And usually when we're able to turn that around, I see incredible transformations, not just in that person's business, but in them as a person. I would tell you, BNI doesn't owe me any money. I have done really well in this organization, but my biggest gain from BNI has been who I have become as a result of interacting, of learning, of growing alongside other business owners. To give you one example, when I first joined BNI, I died every Tuesday night. In my sleep, I would just wake up in cold sweat because I was going to have to get up on Wednesday morning. And for 60 seconds, it was 60 seconds at the time, I was going to stand in front of a group of business owners and tell them what I did for a living. I did that for a while, and eventually I looked around the room and it dawned on me, these people are not here to judge me. They're here to grow their own businesses. They're here to help one another. And I started to, just relax a little bit. And before I knew it, I've spoken on international stages. I was a member of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. All of that is part of my personal transformation as a result of being in this organization. It works in so many ways, but you're right. Like anything, if I take my vehicle and I go, I don't want to put gas in it, I just want to put water in it, it's not going to run. You got to get all the pieces of the puzzle together and use it like the process and the tool that it is.
Love it. And a lot of people don't know this. I'm going to share, and I don't know if you'll remember this. My networking, I've been a natural networker my entire life. In about 2010 or 11, nope, 2011, I think, I joined BNI in Calgary. And I was like you, I was like just shaking. I was like, oh my God, I got to stand up and tell people what I do. And I met you that summer at one of the Stampede events, and I was just in awe of how natural and graceful you were, but you were also this presence. Everybody knew Moji and everybody wanted to know Moji, and that inspired me to become the networker I am. And that's what I love about Givers Gain. It's not what's in it for me today. It's, first of all, it's fun, but second of all, if I can help somebody else, and that's, I've become a crusader for networking because of joining BNI, because of reading Dr. Meisner's book, and yes, because of meeting you. So
Thank you.
and just to say this for my audience, I reached out to Moji and said, Moji, I'm doing a podcast, would you be on it? And she just didn't even think about it. She just said, sure. So that's the power of connecting and building relationships. I've been a fan of yours. I've been telling people about BNI for a decade because you and I met once at a pancake breakfast in Calgary.
Isn't that amazing? Jeff, we spoke briefly before we turned on the recording about, people saying how, can you network online, and networking is dying. And I'll tell you, more than ever before, we need to network. In this age of AI, in this age where people are disconnecting because we're spending so much time on our screens, more than ever before, the message that you are so passionate about sharing with people, I think, is so much more critical, about actually helping people know how to connect with other humans. We live in cities where sometimes we don't even know who our next door neighbors are. You enter an elevator full of adults and it's dead silence, and everybody's hoping and praying that the door opens so they can get out of
Everybody's all of a sudden very
Right.
entranced in their phones.
It's like, what happened to us?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm so grateful that you're out there, sharing that message and bringing it to people's awareness.
Well, and you mentioned one of my favorite poems of all time, and I think it's one of yours. I love everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten. And I think, one of the things when COVID hit and the world started shutting down, I reminded people that in the poem, I think it says, wash your hands, like, so I think we all already know, and you mentioned, sometimes we overcomplicate things, but networking's simple enough that a 3-year-old can do it.
Absolutely. Actually, they're the best. You want to learn how to network? Go watch go watch a 3-year-old, on the playground. They get out of the vehicle, they jump out there, they see the other kids. They're not there all self-conscious. They're like, can I play with you? Or like you said about your son, he walks up to someone and said, hi, I'm new. Can we be friends?
Yeah.
How brilliant is that? It's not complicated, just like you've said.
And I'm just going to address one thing. It pains me when I go to so-called networking events and everybody's standing in corners checking their phones. And it's like, put your phones down. And I'm going to ask you a question because this is one of my favorites. I'm an introvert, and I know that. And because I'm an introvert, I know I have to network differently. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? And how does that impact you? Sorry, very personal question.
No, it's a brilliant question. And you're a writer, so you may be familiar with the book. It's called The Introverted Extrovert. When I tell people I'm an introvert, they laugh because because of what I do, I have to show up. But like you, I have to work hard at it. I have to, not have to, I choose to, because I see the value in it. But, when you think of the fact that the actual definition of an introvert is someone who gets their energy from being by themselves. You talked about, again, if you don't mind me sharing, just enjoying your time alone in the car when you drive. That it is one of my happy places as well. But I also realize when I walk into a room, there is magic in two people looking into each other's eyes and saying, hello, how are you doing? From a place of sincerity, not okay, I'm going to meet 10 people today. And so you're number one, I'm going to check you off and off I go. I have many people who I have met over the years, and we connect over something as simple as a pancake breakfast, but you never know where it's going to go. Yeah. Never know where it's going to go. And it's just, I could tell you stories on end, internationally, people who will reach out and say, hey, I met you at this conference. My son's coming to Canada. How can I find connections for them? The other day, someone sent me an email from Costa Rica, and they were like, I met you at a BNI event. I know someone in Costa Rica who needs an accountant in Canada. Can you help them? Right? It's just the word. It's magical. I just like when people connect, because you don't know who I know. I don't know who you know. And when we bring all of that together, we create something much bigger than any one of us could ever imagine.
I love it. And now one of the things I love about BNI is the education piece, because I'm just one person and I can only help so many people get better at networking. What's your view on networking education? And let's, you and I are going to lobby the schools to put this in. What would you say to the comment, networking is just for business?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely. I mean, what is networking? It's just connecting with people, acknowledging the humanity in the other person when I meet them. It could be as simple as a smile. Have you ever noticed you're walking down the highway and sorry, not down the highway, down the sidewalk, and there's somebody, they've either got a very an expressionless face, or they've got a frown on their face, and you kind of smile at them, and guess what? They smile back. And that's kind of one of my goals when I go out for a walk. If I mean, not everybody responds, but I think 90% of the time people do. Hey, hello, and just with a smile. Networking is not something you turn on and off. I see it as a way of life, right? I have no idea what my neighbor is going through. I have no idea what that little kid coming up, across from me on the sidewalk, or that adult. I have no idea what's going on in their life. But if I can add a little bit of a smile to their day, what a difference. And imagine if we all did. I was at the grocery store one day, and I'll never forget this lady. She was on the phone, and I was standing there at the checkout, and I could, there were two things that could have happened. I could have been irritable and just gone, I'm standing here at the checkout. Can you get off your phone and just serve me? But I looked at her and I could tell something was going on. And when she put the phone down to help me, I said, "Are you okay?" And she just broke out into tears. Like I said, I'm not asking for any details. I just wanted to let you know that I care. And that was it. She helped me, thanked me, hopefully with a little bit more acknowledgement. That helped her continue in her day. But networking is humanity. I guess that's my definition of it. It's us acknowledging one another's humanity. No, it is not just for business. It's life.
I think, one of the things we forget is the world reflects back what we send out. So if we're happy and friendly, it does come back that way. And, I meet a lot of people who are very transactional, and they'll literally say, well, I'll make an introduction, but first I want you to do this for me. Those are not my people. I don't play well with those, because I make introductions because it's the right thing to do. I again, as you said, I don't know what my neighbor's going through, but if I can make an introduction that makes their life better, I feel better, and that's important enough for me to do it.
I think also, Jeff, one of the things people forget, and it doesn't matter whether you're religious or not. I'm a firm believer in the fact that what goes around comes around. Maybe I make an introduction for you, and you don't make an introduction for me, but someone else makes an introduction for me. And I just believe that, when I was in Sunday school, we sang this little song, "It's love that makes the world go round." And I know it sounds woo when you're talking business, but the older I get, the more these very fundamental truths resonate. It's like, that's it. Nobody, even in the workplace now, we talk about workplace wellness. We talk about toxicity. I can never say that word. I don't even know why I try. But, we talk about toxic workplaces where people are not kind to each other. We need kindness. It's a fundamental human need. Like we need air. Like nobody thrives in an environment that's hostile, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we could go on, but very powerful. I believe incredible skill to cultivate on an ongoing basis.
Well, and I'm going to throw out a challenge to the BNI people that hear this. Teach your kids the skills you're learning in BNI, because I literally don't have a problem in my life that I don't start by looking to my network to solve. Any challenge, any opportunity, I reach out to the people I know and trust. And again, I think kids these days are so used to being on their phones. Teach them, like I really think that, they have junior achievement, which goes into schools and teaches people basic business skills and finance skills. I feel like we need a junior BNI, if there isn't such a thing, and if there is, please tell me.
There is actually a strategic alliance between BNI and junior achievement in a lot of countries for that reason. Not so much in Canada, but again, with time, I think we'll see more and more of that. Like, you're right. Get them young and help them establish those skills, even, as they grow. And I actually don't even, I think it's almost with kids, I think we start out really caring and doing all those things, and then somehow society unfortunately beats it out of us. When you were talking, something came to mind, and it is part of, in growing up, we develop social skills, which is fabulous. But one of the things I often get when I'm talking to someone and I say, hey, have you thought about reaching out? And they look at me and they go, why would they help me? And I'm like, okay, let's flip it, right? Jeff, if I needed something and I reached out to you and it was something within your power to do, would you help me or not? Oh, they go, of course I would. And then, so what, you think you're a better person than them? You would help them, but they won't help you? And the light goes on and they're like, no, I'm not saying I'm a better person. I'm like, you just did though, right? Or why is it that you believe that you will help someone, but you don't think someone's going to help you? And for that reason, you won't even ask. And yes, some people say no, there's no doubt about that. But I learned this from, his name escapes me, the Chicken Soup for the Soul gentleman.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's how I know him.
I know. It's gonna
I'll add it to the show notes.
Yes, okay. He says in his book, he says SW, 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 SW. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. And it is that last SW, that someone that's waiting, they're worth it. They're worth whatever it is to go through all those steps to get to them, to be able to be out there for them. So, J.K. Rowling, or even Dr. Meisner himself, how many authors will tell you how many rejections they had to get through in order to get their first yes, right? So it's part of it. That yes is out there. So don't let it stop you. The possibility that somebody might say no, many times they don't. So
I love it. And it's funny because I actually had the privilege of interviewing Bob Berg for one of my podcasts. And he said, Jeff, how do you feel when you help someone? And I said, I feel really good. I get, and he got me to describe it. And he said, now, Jeff, would you describe yourself as selfish? And I said, well, no, of course not. And he said, well, when you don't let someone else help you, you're being selfish. You're depriving them of that feeling. And I went, oh, that's what it took for me.
Powerful.
And I was like, wow, that forever, because he has the 5 laws of stratospheric success, and law number 5 is receptivity. And when I read his book, I went, oh crap, because I am terrible at asking for help.
Yes.
So that's my mission, is to learn that one.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I have unless I absolutely have to, especially in BNI, or if I'm in a corporate environment and somebody says, may I help? I will let them. Yeah. Because like you said, it is an opportunity, and I'll go find something else to do, right? And it just means, even if I could do that thing, right, I'll find something else and allow them. Helping is belonging in many spaces. It means I'm allowed to be part of whatever is going on, and it is a beautiful feeling.
I love it. Now, let's get into some practical things, because I think the world needs to learn more about how BNI networks. And I know there's some people that think it's, I give you this, you give me that. transactional in nature, but at the heart of BNI, it's that relationship and the giver's gain. What's your favorite piece of advice you give a new networker who's showing up for BNI with a shiny name tag and really excited to go and saying, what can BNI do for me?
Yeah. There's something in BNI that we call one-to-ones. You're familiar with it. It's a process where we sit down across from a fellow BNI member. We spend about an hour in the meeting in total, and we get to learn about each other and split the time in about 30-minute segments. There is a direct correlation. One of the things I love about BNI is just the amount of data that we collect over the years, and because you can only improve what you're measuring, and this is no fluff. This is no, it's hard data. The more one-to-ones you do, the higher the number of connections, the higher the number of referrals that you're going to get in BNI. And so that's my first piece of advice to anyone in BNI. It's just, you could see, I look at chapters and it's like, if their one-to-one graph is going this way and then it dips, within a month there will be a dip in the referral one graph as well. It kind of lags a little bit, but direct correlation. Build those relationships, just like you've been saying, because the one-to-ones is where we really go, okay, what do you need? How can I help you? Tell me a little bit about what's going on in your life. And we do have a fairly formal process that we go through in developing, especially the initial ones. But that would be my advice. Do the one-to-ones.
And I love that. The other piece of advice I'm hearing in there is that your networking should drive results. Therefore, you should be. I just hit a nerve, people.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so we should be tracking, networking is a tangible thing where we can track inputs and outputs. What are your thoughts on that?
So actually, you referred to this, and I forget whether it was when you and I were chatting or just while we were on the show as well. You talked about being a natural networker, and I'll have to say that this is one of the pitfalls that natural networkers can find themselves in, and it is this process where we just network, and we show up everywhere there's a networking event, and there is no focus, and there is no intention, and there is no system to the process. And I think that's where, when people say networking doesn't work, that's oftentimes, if it's not the fact that they've been transactional, you actually see some very sincere people that are not going about it, in a trackable way, in a way that it drives results, right? And so I say to people, start with first of all, know what your goals are for your business. Know, hey, over the next 3 months, I want to connect with X number of people in my business. I need 10 new clients, whatever that is for you. And then begin to reverse engineer that process. Where do I need to show up, for example, in order to meet those kinds of people? If I want to fish, I can't fill my kitchen sink with water and fish. I have to go where the fish are, right? And so it's very important. And, people just go, oh, there's this event there, there's that. Okay, let's start with your client. Are they at that event? Because if they're not there, it doesn't matter how much fun you have.
Yeah.
You're going to meet them there. So go where your clients go where your prospects go, right? It's things like that. And then when you're there, be prepared. Of course, you're not there beating them over the head with your information. Show up genuine, care about them. And as they get to know you, like you, and trust you, especially those deeper relationship-based type contracts, they don't show up because somebody met you for the first time at a networking event. They show up as you cultivate and nurture the relationship. So I've heard Dr. Meisner say it over and over again. BNI is not a get-rich-quick scheme. The other expression that he uses that I really appreciate is desperation is not referable. If you're desperate, you actually repel people rather than draw them to yourself. And so those are just some practical things to keep in mind as you network. Be intentional, genuinely care about people, definitely share what it is that you do, and track the results that you're getting. Yeah.
I love that because I have a former client who I taught her how to network, and she heard about a third of what I taught her because she proceeded, I'm not kidding, Moji, she went to every single networking event in her city once. And literally, she was that crazy person who came in, threw her cards around, and left. And after 2 weeks, she looked me in the eye and said, networking sucks. I'm exhausted. It didn't get me anything. And I said, I don't know exactly what to call what you just did, but I would not call that networking. Like, and this is a
There's
funny,
actually a name for it, Jeff. It's called scorched earth networking. Because you burn everything in your, it's like people, you become that person when people see you coming, they turn around and they're like, yeah, no.
oh, look
So
at the time, gotta go.
exactly.
Scorched earth. Yeah, I used to say it was like watching a blackjack dealer. They throw their cards around the room, and they're like the Wild West
I like
gunslinger.
that
And
one too. Yeah, yeah.
it's yeah, and that's it's a funny thing, but it took me a long time to figure out. I was teaching the mechanics of networking, and what I realized was the most important part of my networking was the heart. I genuinely show up to care. I care and I want to help people. And it was funny because people were learning my methods, and I'm not kidding. I was in a room full of insurance people teaching them how to network with intention and how to build relationships. And at the end of the workshop, one person raised his hand and said, sorry, I have a question I really need you to answer before we wrap up. And I said, what is that? And he said, well, you've taught us about sincerity and being authentic. How do we fake sincerity so that people will give us referrals?
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
I will admit to being speechless for the first time in a very long time. And I said, well, you can't. By definition, sincerity is sincere.
Mhm, mhm. It's interesting, Jeff. The older I get, the more I realize that common sense is uncommon. And a lot of things that and in all fairness too, a lot of things come naturally to me that I just assume comes naturally to other people. And there's a lot of things that don't come naturally to me. And people look at me and they go, how can you be so clueless? And so, we all just need to realize that, hey, okay, maybe they need help along those lines. But like you, I would have been speechless. That even now, it was everything I could do to not just, yeah, it's jaw dropping, isn't it? But
it's funny because I bought myself time to think. I said, I was so speechless. I literally, it was just a knee-jerk reaction. I said, I'm curious, how many others of you are waiting for that answer? And I'm not kidding. 100 people in the room, 100 hands went up. And I just went, wow. So the good news is there's a school of scorched earth networking out there alive and well in the insurance industry, but the good people, they're not in those rooms learning these, fake tactics and things like that.
right.
Now, for somebody who's not familiar with BNI, how can somebody get a taste of the world? I think you guys, way back pre-COVID, I know you did open invitations and people were welcome to come and join. Is that still a thing?
Absolutely. And you know what's even more amazing today is I remember when COVID hit, and I'm thinking to myself, we have gathered weekly for 35 years. What are we going to do? And within 2 weeks, the BNI headquarters had us all online. And for close to 2 years, we met on Zoom. The beauty, I mean, there was hardships, obviously. I mean, people who couldn't get out, but there was also the beauty and the gift of COVID to us is that now I can attend a BNI meeting just about anywhere in the world, without leaving the comfort of my office or my living room or wherever it is that I work. So yes, we are more than delighted to have people come for a visit. You get an opportunity, if you're a business owner, to introduce your business. I've had people looking for work walk into a room of 40 business owners and say, hey, I'm looking for work in this field. A great introduction for me would be someone who is in that field. And the likelihood in a room full of 30, 40 business owners is somebody probably knows. You know, if you think of the six degrees of separation, right? There's somebody in that room very likely who knows the person or the individual that you need to get in contact with. So absolutely, I would love to connect any of your listeners or anyone you know to a BNI chapter in your part of the world, wherever that might be.
Yeah, and I know I have a friend who's down in Florida. I met him through somebody who met him through BNI. And once a year, him and his global network, they meet, I think, in Malaysia. And they spend 2 weeks. Literally, it's high-powered, high-focused networking, and basically they're building their network. And one of the things I love about networking, I see it as sort of a portfolio where, as you build it, it adds value. But it's not just my portfolio, it's adding value to the people around me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just one of the things that I have benefited, or the ways in which I have benefited from BNI, there are 72 countries right now, and I maybe even more that have BNI regions and BNI in those countries. And I tell you, at least 60 countries around the globe where if I was coming to town, I could call somebody up and say, hey, John, I'm going to be in Seoul in May of 2024. Can we have coffee? That's pretty amazing.
Well, it's funny because I know a lot of people who say, "Oh, I moved and I don't know anyone." And my question is, well, what did you do to meet people? Well, I went to the grocery store, I went to the library, I went to the gas station, and I didn't meet anybody. And my 2 cents is if I was to move to a new country or a new city or a new province, I'd check out the local BNI because you're going to have questions about where do I live, where do I shop, where do I send my kids to school. BNI is a great place to answer all kinds of those questions.
Incredible. Actually, one of the things that the stories that come to mind is it was someone had invited their MLA's personal assistant to a BNI meeting. And at the end of the meeting, we typically ask people, "Oh, what impressed you the most about the meeting?" And she stood up and she said, "Do you know how many people call me on a daily basis with problems and things that they need? And where can I find this and where can I find that?" And right here in this room is a group of reputable business owners. Thank you for what you do. And now I know where to go to send people. And you're so totally right. What a great place. Because in a BNI chapter, you'll find a realtor, you'll find a mortgage broker, you'll find lawyers, you'll find dentists. I mean, you name it. And if that person's not in the room, they probably know, because those people also know people, right? And so, and they are used to doing things from a place of giving. Right? They're not expecting anything back when they either refer you or give you business, that type of thing. So
I love it. Now, I could talk to Moji all day, and I know she's very, very busy, so I won't. But my final question, if people want to get to figure out whether BNI is a fit for them, because I'm going to say that not everybody's going to be a fit for BNI, and I think it's safe to say the what's in it for me kind of people, they can keep walking. They can go spend their money on ads. But how can people get to know BNI and specifically the Southern Alberta chapter?
absolutely. So my first thing is visit. Just again, another Ivanism, we call them. He says you can't get a haircut over the phone. It's hard to explain BNI. It's just the same. Show up. It's 90 minutes. It's very structured. We're business owners. We're not going to waste your time. Show up and be prepared. Talk to me, talk to someone in the chapter. Like if someone connects with me, I will send them sort of a little script to help them prepare, because they will be invited to speak. Here's another thing. A lot of people would rather be in the coffin at a funeral than be the one giving the eulogy. So I usually prepare my visitors before they go to a BNI meeting. You might be asked what you need, and trying to make it up on the spot doesn't usually work. And so here's a little script to help you prepare, but come into the room, be present and listen, and don't stand off in a corner. Bring business cards if it's in person. Have your information ready to go in the chat if it's online. Little tips like that to help them make the most of it. But more than anything else, be present, because that's how you get a feel for who's in the room and whether they are your people.
Kind of like calling your favorite restaurant and asking them to describe what their signature dish tastes like. How does it smell? Describe the experience to me so I can decide whether I want to come out or not. And I'll second that, because when I first experienced BNI, literally the person who invited me said, just show up. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, what the heck did I sign up for? I would say to people, just ask, how can I prepare? What should I know? Now, Moji, I'm going to ask you the burning question in Jeff's brain, and I don't expect you have an answer to this, but Robin Dunbar is my nemesis. I absolutely hate the person. I've never met him, but he's the person who came up with Dunbar's number that says that the average human being can only network with 225 people. And I have said, oh yeah, watch me. And without even being in my life, Dunbar's number just keeps hitting me upside the head. And I'm like, okay, I give up Dunbar. What advice would you give for those networkers who are starting to feel the strain of because I'm guessing thousands of more people than I do. What would you give to those people who are trying to be the best networker they can be, but then they start to look at people and go, oh my God, I forgot that person?
Back to Ivan, he says a lot of people have a network that is an inch deep and a mile wide. You cannot be a mile deep with everybody. You got to pick, so yes, I know thousands. Actually, the other day I was looking through my database, and I have about 5,000 people on my database, most of whom I would remember. Now, do I remember everything? No, I don't. But there's always, there's circles, right? There's your more intimate circles. There's, family, and then there's extended family, then there's friends. And so it's just, I would say lean into it, right? You will find sort of the boundaries of your circle, but you cannot be everything to everyone, because it's just, humanly speaking, we have limits. When I started in Southern Alberta, we had about 70 members, loved going into the chapters. I knew everybody by name, knew their wife's name, knew their kids' name, knew what they had.
Birthdays, anniversaries.
I knew all of that. Now there's over 400 of us. We're getting close to 500, and it's not quite possible anymore. And I miss those days, but I also am thankful that we're helping more and more people, right? And what you want to do is help. So I'm focusing on helping the leaders in the organization so that they can help the other leaders. When Dr. Meisner started BNI, he can't be in my region, but he's trained me and he's trained others to kind of do and continue to ripple out the effects of what we're learning from one another. So I guess my thing is allow yourself to sort of figure out what that space is for you and who's in your sort of Dunbar's number, for lack of a better term. He did have a point.
He does have a point,
yes.
and I love the circles, because I think that's how his model. It's you can only have deep. Basically you can remember 250 people's birthdays or something like that. And then, as you go out further, but I love the idea, and I think that's where I see it, is I can be a mile deep with an inch wide, but then I teach them how to go mile deep, and then my network gets deeper and has more reach. So, well, Moji, I am always and have been a fan of yours. I'm the president, self-appointed president of your fan club. I just want to say you are the expert at being you. Is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't?
I was really, as I prepared for this, I looked you up a little bit more and looked into the whole health and wellness focus that you have around business and around networking. And I cannot say enough, Jeff, of how timely and how powerful that message is. Actually, one of you did say, okay, we're not doing a health and wellness podcast, but one of the questions that you had on there was, what are you passionate about? And for me, it is health, physical, emotional, spiritual, because I believe that the healthier we are, the more powerfully we show up for our network and for the people we serve and for our clients and for our friends and our families. So I'm just incredibly grateful for what you do and how you serve the world.
Well, I would reciprocate. I want to say thank you for taking time. I know you're busy with your MBA and you've got a massive network that's depending on you, but thank you for hanging out with me and sharing your light with my audience today.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.